All software implementations and digital transformations are difficult. Some studies suggest that 75% of all implementations end up in failure. What are some of the red flags that your implementation might fail? That's what I want to talk about today. My name is Marcus Harris. I'm a software and technology attorney. For over 25 years, I've drafted and negotiated a variety of technology-related contracts and litigated failed ERP implementations in courts across the country. What are some signs your implementation might be headed for trouble? Well, I think the first sign is unreasonable expectations. And I think that really is the fault for that doesn't necessarily fall on the customer as so much as it does the vendor. And I think vendors will often minimize the complexity and duration of an ERP project. They will minimize the actual cost of the implementation, all in an attempt to get you to sign a contract. And I think if your vendor has told you that they can implement an off-the-shelf, out-of-the-box solution within a matter of months, it's almost never true. And I certainly think that is a sign that you're going to have some trouble in that implementation. The other issue that we see in the cases that we litigate is clients really thinking that the technology is going to be a silver bullet, that it is a one size fits all solution to all of their technology problems. And that really is unreasonable, and I think it's untrue. The fact of the matter is there is no one size fits all solution. I think that for you to expect that the software is going to be tailored to your specific industry, that it's going to incorporate best practices, that it is going to have out of the box functionality, really is an unreasonable expectation. And I think it's just, like I said, it's just not true. And if you've got a vendor that is telling you that, I think you need to take a step back and really reevaluate the veracity of those statements and what they're telling you. The other problem that we see is clients that lead with a technology first approach. And I think this is problematic for a variety of reasons, but I think mainly it makes this red flag list because I think if you don't have a business case for the implementation of a particular technology, you really have no business implementing that technology. And if you're implementing technology for the sake of implementing technology, you're really going to run into trouble. And it's really something you have to avoid. The other red flag that we will see is a failure to devote adequate resources to the project. And that really can cut both ways. We will see it on the vendor side, where the vendor will fail to utilize its A team, it'll utilize its D team or its C team. It'll use the implementation project as a training ground for inexperienced or incompetent consultants. It will use offshore resources, and all of that can be problematic. We also see it on the customer side, where the customer really doesn't have an understanding of the types of resources that it's going to take to bring that project to completion, to make that project successful. And I think that's really twofold. One, it's just a level of inexperience. Most people don't do these types of projects on a regular basis. And in fact, I think if you do one or two during your career, you're probably the exception. I think the other issue is you're relying on the vendor's misrepresentations with respect to minimizing the complexity, the duration, and the cost of that project. And you may do that for good reason, but it really doesn't serve you. And I think if you find yourself in a scenario where you don't have adequate resources, or the vendor is not devoting adequate resources, you've got to take a step back, because I think that is really a sign that your implementation might be in trouble. One of the other things that we will see is really a failure to understand what the current business state is and what you want that future business state to look like. And the problem with that really is that if you don't have an understanding of where you've been, you don't have an understanding of where you're going, you're not going to be able to evaluate the gaps in functionality that are going to be present in that software product. And nothing is a silver bullet, like we've said. And the reality is that every piece of functionality, every product that you're going to consider and that you're going to implement, there will be functionality gaps. It may be able to address your business requirement, or it may not. If it does, maybe it doesn't do it in the same way that you expected it to, or in the most efficient way. And you've got to have a plan for dealing with that on the front end. You've got to figure out what you're going to do. You want to anticipate those functionality gaps and have a plan for getting around those so that you can have a successful implementation. I hope you found this information useful. If you have any questions about anything that I've talked about in this video, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact me at taftlaw.com. Thank you.